Do you love going to Broadway shows, but can't go now because Broadway's closed? Join tour guide Tim and Belasco too as they bring Broadway history to you. Grab your Broadway passport for what's in store on your Virtual Broadway Tour.
This week's theater, the August Wilson, originally opened in 1925 and became the first of two Broadway theaters on the 52nd Street block. The Theater Guild, one of the leading producers of American theater in the 1920s, was looking for a new home uptown, having previously set up residence at the Garrick Theater in Herald Square. As the theater district moved north to Times Square, so too did they. Flush with cash from some early lucrative productions, they decided to build their own theater, appropriately named the Guild Theater, and the cornerstone was laid in 1924, overseen by Theater Guild co-producer Teresa Helburn. Established as a repertory company, the group set out to build a theater with a lavish playing area and ample wing space to accommodate many different sets that would rotate in and out of use based on their playing schedule. Much fanfare was made of the opening production of Caesar and Cleopatra. President Calvin Coolidge even turned on the lights by pressing a switch in Washington, D.C., fully illuminating the theater. The only problem? The Theater Guild realized that they had made the stage so large that even with a sold-out audience, there weren't enough seats to turn a profit. So after opening with 914 seats, the theater had to be renovated completely to accommodate more, bringing it to its current capacity of just over 1,200 seats. Seating issues resolved, the Theater Guild set to work presenting many different playwrights in bold theatrical productions. When the Great Depression hit, they realized their repertory model wasn't cost-effective, and they began presenting singular productions. On October 26, 1931, Eugene O'Neill's 5-hour trilogy, Morning Becomes Electra, opened to rave reviews and was deemed a masterpiece. With the length of the production in mind, the opening performance began at 5 p.m. and included a full dinner break. With fashion at the forefront of most theatrical outings in the 1900s, this curtain time stumped a few theatergoers. Should you wear afternoon attire? Or, since it will end around 10 p.m., was evening wear more appropriate? These sound like absurd questions now, but it was a very serious question back in 1931. Critic George Jean Nathan opted for afternoon attire, but saw wealthy financier Otto Kahn had chosen formal wear instead. Fearing embarrassment, Nathan raced home at the dinner break to change into formal wear and made his way back to the Guild Theater, only to find that Kahn had done the same thing. With the current tenant at the theater, I guess the theatrical attire for Wednesday performances makes the decision for you, because according to the Mean Girls, on Wednesdays we wear pink. Over the course of the next 70 years, the Guild Theater would transition through many different names. When the Theater Guild eventually vacated, it became a government-subsidized theater for a number of years called the Amphitheater. In 1981, the theater was purchased by Ju Jamson, and the name was changed again to the Virginia to honor the wife of owner James Binger. Finally, in 2005, just 14 days after his death, the marquee bulb spelled out August Wilson to honor the great American playwright. Amid the many name changes, the theater was home to many hit productions. Pearly, City of Angels, Jelly's Last Jam, Smokey Joe's Cafe, and Jersey Boys, still its longest running tenant. But beyond that list of winners was one show that is known as one of the biggest flops in Broadway history, a musical adaptation of Stephen King's novel, Carrie. Transferring from the West End and starring Betty Buckley and Lindsay Hatley, the production cost $8 million and elicited passionate responses, both positive and negative, from critics and audience members. My personal favorite moment is when Carrie used her telekinetic powers to make her shoes tap dance as she was getting ready for the prom and her bloodbath in Act 2. The blood was on their hands for a total of 16 previews and 5 official performances before closing. Whoops. Given the real estate constraints of New York City, most Broadway theaters were designed utilizing every nook and cranny of a building to maximum effect. To house all of the performers backstage, most early theatrical architects designed a tower of vertical dressing rooms, thus creating a hierarchy system amid a cast. The larger the role, the closer to ground level. Almost always the star dressing room is directly off stage, while the swings and understudies are typically 5 or 6 flights above, accessed only by lots and lots of stairs. Most theaters, the August Wilson included, you simply have to look up while standing in front of the building to see all of the dressing room windows above. With the Neil Simon directly across the street, the two theaters' dressing room windows face each other, which provides an opportunity for humor, rivalry, and connection. Very often, signs are placed in the windows of one theater spelling out a message to the opposing theater. And even more common, shouts of "break a leg" or "have a great show" can be heard echoing down from above to those theatergoers arriving just before curtain time. And yet, most audience members are in a hurry to get inside to their seats, so very few rarely look up to see any of this playing out from opposite sides of 52nd Street.
Hello! Happy Saturday noon on Broadway. Can you believe it is already Saturday again? I literally feel like we just did this, but here we are. Welcome back. Another beautiful, gray, overcast, garbage Saturday here in New York City, but another day closer to Broadway. My name is Tim Dolan. Welcome to our Saturday Noon on Broadway series as part of our Virtual Broadway Tour Series. Every week, we're coming to you live with someone who's worked at the theater we're featuring that week. And this week, we are joined by the incredible, the talented, the 4-time Broadway vet, I guess we'll call that, Teddy Toye from Mean Girls is what we're going to talk a lot about today at the August Wilson, because that's our theater this week. For those that really aren't familiar with me or Broadway Up Close, my name is Tim Dolan. I'm an actor, the owner of Broadway Up Close walking tours in New York City. We do tours of the theater district, history, ghost stories, all the things you didn't know that you really want to know about the 41 Broadway theaters. I have an entire team, my green team, that are all actors and stage managers that are your windows and your eyes to the world of our insane theatrical lives. And then we have 5 exterior tours. We have 1 new interior tour inside Broadway's oldest theater, the Hudson, which opened in 1903. That is closed because of COVID-19, and as is all of Broadway, as I know you know. But our exterior tours, we are still offering with masks, with socially distanced ness, and we have a good time. My next one is tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. We're going to get some hand warmers going. We're going to get some masks going. It's going to be great. In addition to all of that, we have our gift shop in the middle of Times Square, also closed, but has since moved online. So at the end of this, I'll give you a discount code as well as more info on all of our souvenirs, as well as some new souvenirs that we just launched this week. All of the info for everything in my life is www.broadwayupclose.com. You should wait until after we're done with Teddy today, and then you should go buy things or do things or, I don't know, live your Saturday lives. March 12th, 2020 is the day that everything shut down. It's the day where we all kind of had to take a hard look at how much this was going to change our lives and our industry, both tourism, both Broadway, our city, New York City. And it turns out it's going to change everything a lot. And it's going to be a very long shutdown as you're experiencing. Maybe we're only halfway through, which is insane. So I thought, I'm missing connecting with people. Let's go 1 theater a week, and we'll just do some fun fact videos every day on Instagram and Facebook, and then we'll go live with someone every week. And so that brings us to today, and it brings us to week 25, the August Wilson. I hope you've enjoyed all of the videos, fun facts, and insanity from this week's videos. Today, we are going to talk about Teddy's theatrical journey, his time working on Mean Girls and the Prom and Lysistrata Jones and Bring It On. He's very fancy. If you have any questions for him or me along the way, drop them in the comments. And if you haven't already, if you're joining us live, drop where you're watching from in the comments. I see some of you have. Thank you. If you haven't, drop where you're watching from so we know where our stories are going today on this beautiful overcast Saturday. And so, without further ado, join me in welcoming Broadway's Teddy Toye. Ta-da!
There we go.
Nailed it. How are you, Teddy Toye?
I'm good.
Sporting
my,
some Broadway.
Yeah, Broadway Up Close merch right there.
Sure.
Got a little green in the background.
Yes, this Saturday brought to you by Broadway Up Close. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Teddy Toye, where are you located? Where are you living the shutdown? I know where you're located, but tell everyone, for those who don't know where you're located.
Right now I'm located in Florida, just a little north of Orlando.
Okay.
Originally from Spring Hill, which is about 45 minutes north of Tampa.
Okay. And so have you been camped out in Florida the whole time since this all happened, since March?
Yeah, I left, I think the week Broadway shut down. I just figured we were going to be down here for a couple of weeks. So I was like, we have a couple of weeks off. Let's go down and see my family. We never have time off. And then as it slowly kept getting pushed back further and further, I was like, let's go grab my cats and bring them back to Florida. And this will just be home base until we know what's going on in the world.
Yep, that sounds about right. That sounds like a familiar story. For those who don't know about your life, will you tell us we know where you grew up in Tampa. So tell us in Tampa, maybe when you first got exposed to theater, maybe what training, if you danced or did anything like that prior to getting to New York City. Get us to what happens when you land in New York City, and then we'll go from there. So give us like the bio of pre-18 years old Teddy Toye.
Boom. Well, I think my first theatrical experience was, I think I was in like kindergarten. My parents saw a high school production of Wizard of Oz that was happening, and decided to bring my sister and I to audition because they needed Munchkin kids.
Sure.
And so I got in, and I was the little lollipop guild boy. Had like flower petals on my shoes and the big lollipop stick, and did the "We represent" whole thing.
I'm just picturing you, but like exactly what you look like now, but just like
basically
little.
the
But
same.
I'm just picturing like a jacked little like kindergartner who's just like.
So that was like my first like theater experience. But prior to that, like my dad's a musician, so I grew up around music. There's like photos of me when I was like 2 in the paper. There was a thing called the Strawberry Festival down here, and my dad was performing at it on stage, and they brought me on stage. And there's a photo of me in the paper holding a mic and singing. My dad was singing Minnie the Moocher, and apparently I was singing the lyrics with like, I had just heard it so much, immersing it, that I could like fake sing through the song at 2 years old. And I was, so they put me in the paper. So my mom has a newspaper clipping of me, like, I'm like this big holding a mic, like singing at this festival. I was like, I like kind of, I always grew up around like music and, around music mostly. And then kindergarten was the first experience of theater, incorporating it all. And then I just,
and do you remember kindergarten years? Like I remember like maybe nap time one time when I was 5. Do you have any cognizant memories of doing that Wizard of Oz, or is it like what I remember is I've seen a couple of pictures of it, and so that kind of has jogged my memory?
No, I remember a bunch of things of it, because I remember like specifically, I remember I had to audition, and in the audition, I remember I sang "I Just Can't Wait to Be King" because Lion King had just come out, and I loved it.
Sure.
And that was, sang to the recording of "Just Can't Wait to Be King," and then after that, they asked me to skip. They needed like the lollipop kids to be able to skip. At that point, apparently, I was having skipping issues. I couldn't skip. It was like a thing that, like, I guess my parents, I was in like gym or something like that. I don't remember exactly the story, but my mom would always bring it up and be like, yeah, like for some reason prior to that, we were trying to teach you how to skip because you couldn't do it in gym. Like you didn't have the rhythm to do it. She's like, and then we get to this audition and you have sing and you're like nailing it. And after the director's like, great, can you just like skip across the room for us?
Final callback is skips, and you were like
yeah.
No.
She's like, your face was like, just like the one thing that I could. So like they held my hand, I guess, and I like skipped across, like kind of fake skipped, I guess. I don't know, but yeah,
Come
skipped
on,
enough that they
like
let me do the show.
Come on, they were like, let's see, he could do everything except let's point out his weakness. In order to book this, all you have to do is skip. You're like, no. I mean, skipping is like, especially at 5. I mean, that takes a lot of motor skills. I used to teach for Rosie O'Donnell's charity, and we worked in the 5th grades. And in the 5th grade, they have trouble doing step pivot. And you're like, And that's 5th grade. I mean, these kids are
Yeah.
like, 11. So the fact that, still booked it. They were like, that's what rehearsal's for. That's
Yeah,
what
they're like,
rehearsal's for.
they're like, that's good. He'll be fine.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, so you skipped your way through Wizard of Oz, and
Yep.
then presumably you get into elementary school, you get into junior high, and then did you do high school shows?
Yes. Before that, I was doing. There's a equity dinner theater. I'm not sure if it's equity anymore, but it was equity at
Oh,
the time.
yeah.
Dinner theater called the Show Palace Dinner Theater. It's in Hudson.
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of doing. That's only about like 20 minutes from my house. So when I was in, I think fifth or sixth grade, I started doing shows there. That my mom saw that would bring me, my sister, and we'd audition. So I think I ended up from middle school to the end of high school. I think I ended up doing like 6 or 7 shows there. And that really like I ignited my like love of doing like theater and stuff.
Wow.
I was around like half of the cast members were equity members, so like I got to learn about that pretty young, and they were really good. And then like I would get pulled out of school. I remember being in middle school for the matinees. Like I'd have to like leave school, and I remember I had to give like a note to the teacher, be like, sorry, every Wednesday for the next 6 weeks, I have to leave school early. I have a show, And
One could say you were
$1
skipping class.
But don't.
Still got it. Here all day.
Got it.
Crazy. This is crazy. So like you're like in 6th grade, like, I gotta go. I have to go to work. This is crazy.
Yeah. So
wow.
Like, we did like Music Man, Carousel, did Joseph, Here's Love.
Sure. Wow, that old gem of a hit. Here's Love. I think that was at the Schubert. Wow, that is sure. Okay. So then you go, maybe you're frozen. Are you still there, Teddy Toye? Are you still with us, Teddy Toye? Maybe. Teddy Toye. He's back. Teddy Toye. You're back.
I'm back.
It's okay. I did a whole song. Where are you, Teddy Toye? Good thing I warmed up before this.
There you go. Keep it
You're
going.
back. Okay, so you are like basically 6 years old and you have your equity card basically. So you finish high school and then you get to New York City? And you go right to New York?
Yes, I went to, I think it was 3 months after. I went to AMDA. I started in October. So I graduated in June.
For those who don't know, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, I also went there. I'm slightly older than Teddy, slightly. So we didn't go at the same time, but yes, American Musical and Dramatic Academy, Upper West Side, New York City. And how old are you when you get there? Teddy Toye. Teddy Toye, are you there?
Yes. How old? I'm back.
How old?
Yeah. How old? I was 18. I had just turned 18 that June.
Okay, and so you get to New York City, and at this point, you've done a whole bunch of shows. Have you, because you do a lot of dancing, it's become, I feel like, where you've really found your niche. Were you already dancing outside of shows? Had you taken any classes before college, or is that the first time you really start training professionally?
Yeah, I think I was 14 or 15 when I was doing one of those shows at the Show Palace. All the kids would leave. We were doing like Carousel or Joseph, and all the kids would leave after to go do dance class. And I wasn't doing that. I was playing like baseball outside of it. I was doing Taekwondo for a long time. I was doing like a lot of sports and stuff in between. So I never did dance. My sister danced from a very young age. So I was always like at the studios and knew like what it was about and stuff, but I never did classes. And then they were going to do swing class, and one of the little girls needed a swing partner. And she was like, hey, would you want to come be my swing partner, swing partner? And I just thought it was going to be like, I wanted to keep hanging with all the kids like that were doing this. So I was like, yeah, let me try this. And so my parents were like, yeah, take it. So I went and did it. And when I was there at swing, they slowly started. The next thing, the teacher was like, oh, you like have rhythm. You can do this. Why don't you try tap? And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll get that a shot, because I drum. Like I've played drums since I was like 3-4 years old. So like rhythm, I understand. So I was like, okay, tapping. It's just like I'm making like the bass beats and everything, the drum hits with my feet. Like that makes sense. So I took tap class and it all just like clicked, and I was like, okay, I could do these. And so from there they just kind of added on, and then I started.
She was like, what about skipping? And you were like,
yeah,
been doing it since I was 5. Hilarious. This will never end. Now that I know the skipping saga, this is great. This is really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you get to AMDA and it's like all musical theater all the time, and you just hit the ground running. And do you love school? Are you one of these people who's like, I can't wait to finish school and just start auditioning? What does that 2-year program of your life feel like?
I love the experience at school. Being in the city like that long was new to me. So I just like loved like the whole thing of like being in school and then like coming out of school and I was in the city and being able to go do like, so like I remember my classmates, a lot of us, like we'd get done with shows and then like run over and rush ticket for Spring Awakening. Cause that was the bit like just came out, and we'd go, and I'd go like all the time to like right after class to go see all these shows, which is like hilarious now. Cause like a lot of these people that I like, especially in Spring Awakening, all those, like now I'm friends with. So it was like weird when all of these like people that like I looked up to like crazy, like when I was in college, or like, and they were like mythical beings like out of my reach. Like I was like, those guys are so cool. It's like now a lot of them have actually come and seen me in shows, and I'm like close with them, and I hang with them, and that's still like a weird thing that I'm like, I remember at one point when I was like in high school blaring the Spring Awakening CD in my car, like senior year, being like angsty teen, like, yes, this is me. And
it is that reconciliation of that moment is it. I don't know that it ever really, I think you'll always have those people that you're like, I listened to you every day after school when I was 12. And so the reconciliation of like, and now you're here and I'm talking to you like you're my friend it's a weird thing. But very cool. Okay, so then what do you think is your first, what was your first like job, I guess? I don't even know it has to be like I've made it, but what was your first, you audition, someone hires you and you're like, oh, I'm not untalented, someone will pay me money to do something?
Was during AMDA, I ended up getting an agent through their like panel night, my like senior year at AMDA. And they sent me out on an audition for a theater work show, which you love, called If You Give a Pig a Pancake. Which
I was hoping we would talk about this.
Yeah, you knew you'd get it in here. And so I played a hip hop guinea pig, was what I was hired for, because why not? So for 6 months, so I left AMDA my last semester, toured around country for 6 months with that children's theater show, like loading our own sets, driving around everywhere, being like hip hop guinea pig. But I got my equity card, which was great. And then AMDA allowed me to come back and just do my musical showcase, and they would let me graduate.
Incredible.
So I did that. So I left for 6 months, came back. It's like, hey guys, I'm back. And they're like, great, do this 4-week musical showcase and you can get your certification. So that's what I did.
Crazy. Okay, so you finished like crumping as a guinea pig in like Iowa in a cafetorium somewhere. You get your equity card. You're like, okay, I'm not untalented. I am definitely a great guinea pig. What is your first moment where you're like, I've made it. This is a big moment. And did you realize in the moment that it was a big moment? For you, what is your idea of making it?
I think my idea in general is just like, as long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I was making it. You know what I mean? I had like Broadway was always like a goal of mine, and I never had anything else in my head that I was gonna do. So I was just like, well, it's gonna happen. Like, but it just like, but I just like let everything kind of come as it did. So like I think the big one right after I graduated, did my showcase at AMDA, I think it was 2 weeks later, I ended up auditioning and they were sending out like a mini tour of High School Musical. And that was, I think, my first like big kind of thing, because it was working. It brought back all the original people from because the tour was out and closed while I was at AMDA. And so they were bringing it back, I think, to see if they could resend it out. So we did a couple cities with it, and they were kind of testing out, but they brought back all the original people from that tour.
Right.
And they just needed a ripper who was like the skateboard kid. So I auditioned for it, and Ricky Hines was resetting it. He was the original, I think, associate on it when it went out.
Okay.
So he was resetting the whole thing. And yeah, he hired me, and then I got to get like really close with him. I did that whole experience, and that was like after doing like the theater work stuff, felt like they flew me to somewhere. I had my own hotel room. Like we were in this massive theater. Like we had these crazy sets and costumes and everything. So it felt like the first like legit, like I was like, oh, this is like theater. Like I'm doing this professionally now. Like, so that was probably like,
it's a cool moment. Yeah. It's the moment of like, if you grew up around America seeing touring shows and you go to like the big touring house and you see those people running around in the ensemble, and then suddenly you're playing those theaters. It's like, oh wait, now I'm that person, that little child in, crumping or skipping down the aisle in kindergarten. That's now the circle of life. You're all into the mix of it, which I love. Okay. High School Musical goes well. Talk to us about Lysistrata Jones. That was your Broadway debut?
Yes.
And how did any of that come about?
This is kind of a long round of it. So basically I did this random, my agent sent me on this random movie audition. It was the weirdest audition I'd ever done. They were like, hey, get in this bus. They're going to take you out to Queens. You're going to audition for this thing. And if they're shooting it on site, you're going to do it all. So I go, okay. So I go to this thing. I end up auditioning. There's a guy in this weird pizza shop. He's holding his iPhone. He's like, I'm just going to play music. He brings this one at a time. He's like, and just like dancing, I'm going to direct you a little bit while you're doing stuff. And he hits play. And he's like playing some song. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like doing my normal stuff. He's directing. He's like, good, blah, blah. Ends up hiring me. We got this choreo for the style. We go to shoot it on set. They end up having too many dancers in frame. So they're like, we need to chop a couple of these dancers. So they fringe all of us in the center of the shot. They cut us. So he says after he comes over, he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know they were going to do this kind of thing. He's like, you're going to get paid, but he's like, but like, I work a lot in theater more than this. He's like, so can you give me your headshots and resumes in case anything comes up? I'm like, sure. I had no clue who this guy is. Right. So then I go get the audition for Lysistrata off Broadway. And I look at the breakdown and I'm like, I can't connect this. I was like, that was the guy who was at that pizza shop, that movie thing I did. I was like, he's like legit. Like I didn't know who he was at the time. And at that point he'd done like Putnam County, Spelling Bee, and Xanadu. Whoops.
Right.
And so, I looked him up and I was like, oh, it was that guy. So I walked into the audition and he's like, hey, he's like, I remember, he's like, you did that crazy, like random shoot. And he started like joking with me about it. He's like, that was so janky. He's like, I didn't realize what that was going to be. I signed up for it. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, remember you like do crumping and all that stuff. Do my audition for Harold. I had sides and a song I sang. Like, great. And it was him, Douglas Carter Bean, Lewis Flynn, and the music director. And then he starts talking about crumping stuff. And then Doug Carter Bean's like, what's crumping? And
yeah,
like,
I am Doug Carter Bean. I was like, remind me what crumping is. It's like
a form of dancing. Like,
sure. Yeah.
It's like aggressive, like street dancing, but like, so they've never seen it or heard of it. So he makes me do that. And they think it's like, Doug thinks it's hilarious. And he's like, that's amazing. Great. So I do the dance audition, and in the dance audition, there's a whole basketball section where they're like, do stuff with basketballs. And luckily I just come off of doing a musical, like within that year. So I had a bunch of already from doing that, get your head in the game stuff. Like I had a bunch of basketball choreography. So like, I just threw that in. And so like, oh, he can do like, he's like good with basket. Like, oh, he already knows how to handle it. He was not going to drop it. He can do some tricks and stuff. So I ended up getting hired for the off-Broadway version of that. And so I originated off Broadway. We ran for
with
like
a cast of like heavy hitters. I mean,
Yeah,
Patty
the
Murin,
girls were
Josh
just
Segura,
stacked.
Alex. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
saw it
yeah.
in the gym downtown, and you just were like, this cast is
Well,
crazy.
yes. And at the time, though, this was Josh's first like equity gig. So that's what's
Which is
like. If you look at
crazy.
Josh's career now, like every time I see him on Instagram, I'm like, what new TV show is he in or movie now?
Correct.
But like at that point, it was like he did, I think, the Electric Company. But then this was because he just got out of NYU, and then this is his first like equity theater thing. I remember him getting his equity card while we were doing that off Broadway, and we were always like joking. And we're like, "We got Nanek Josh Segura over here. Like, did he pay for his card yet?" Like we always like
Not
tripping on him.
anymore.
Not
Come
no mo.
on. Not no more.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Josh Segura, if you don't know him, look him up. You should. He's a great friend. He was, of course, the lead in On Your Feet. And then he just did that Dolly Parton Christmas on the Square thing as like the young romantic guy who owns the shop.
Of course.
Yeah, slaying the game. He's like, I'll do musicals and on movies. This will be great.
Yeah, why not?
He does everything. Okay, so Lysistrata Jones, you're in a gym, literally a gymnasium that is an off-Broadway theater, the gym at Judson. And I saw it and it was sold out, and I was there. Jerry Mitchell was there. I mean, the New York Times was there when I was there. I mean, it was like, oh, there's some fancy people, and it was so funny and so fresh, and you guys were so talented. And then you get the green light and they're like, we're moving to Broadway, right?
Yeah, that whole experience is crazy because I'd never done anything like that at that point. I've never done any Broadway shows, I've never done any off-Broadway shows. Like that was my first ever thing. And then I remember like when it was all unraveling, all these people started coming, and we were in a 90-seat theater. So it's not like we were in this big venue where it's like we were floor level with them. They were on risers that went up, and we were on the floor. So like we could see everybody who was coming. So when it started to get like big people were coming, that was when like the like hubbub started happening. We're like, I think I think something's going to happen. I think this could move, blah, blah, blah. They're bringing all these people. And then I remember closing night, we all got in a little circle after close backstage. And that's when I think it was Doug, came around and was like, guys, like, congratulations, blah, 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 blah. He's like, we just want to let you know now, that we have a theater and we will be going to Broadway this season. And he like pulls out a little basketball that says like Lysistrata Jones on the little mini basketball and stuff, and like gives us all like one and stuff. And we were all like, what? Like moment, like, is this real life? Like we're actually taking a show to Broadway. It's like Waiting for Guffman. You're like, yeah, we're moving to Broadway. Like we were in this janky like church basement gym, and we're taking it to Broadway. So it was like such a yeah, it was crazy. Like, and
then you get to Broadway, and then what happens?
Well, winter. I feel like in general. Well, that was the thing. I loved the show. Like I thought the show was so great. The cast was awesome. Like the whole experience in general was amazing. We previewed, I think, for just a month. We opened, I think it was December 14th, and then we ended up closing January 8th. So we ran for a total of 3 weeks. I think it was it's a tough, like the name, I remember talking to Dan about it after the fact, and we were like, the name itself is just hard for people to, like, they couldn't either say it or they didn't know what it was to even associate with it. Like the branding, I think, wasn't executed as great as it could have been. And so I think that was a big like pitfall of it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I remember we had our like opening night, like it was big celebration, and like all the reviews came out. We were critics pick in the New York Times again. Randy loved us, like all this stuff. Like, and we got really great reviews. And so everyone was like cheering and stuff. And then we had an opening meeting the next day, and they were like, this meeting was scheduled to tell us that we were closing this weekend. Originally, but they're like, since we got such amazing reviews, we were able to pull some money together and we're getting us through the holiday season. They're like, it needs to keep ramping up, and you basically need to be selling out until after the holidays, or we're going to be closing January 8th. And that's basically what happened. It's like we had a little push during the holidays, but nowhere near enough to keep us running. So we ended up, closing pretty quick.
The highs are highs, the lows are lows. What a crazy 6 months of your life of like, we're moving to Broadway. And then you get there and they're like, happy opening. You got the New York Times critics pick. We're probably going to close unless, and you're like, what do you mean?
I was like,
crazy. Yeah, here it is. This is the Walter Kerr. It's nice for a month.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But like the one thing they did was great was I know we did a recording for the Lincoln Archives, so it's in there. And we also got to do, I think they brought us back like a month or so after, and we did cast album. So that was like really big, because I was like, at least we got to do that, because we didn't get to do. That's the one thing I was like so bummed about when we did it, because it was such an exciting and fun show. I thought it would be so cool to do things on like any of the like TV shows or the parade, or just like to have this like 5 like high energy athletic dudes with like the basketballs and the girls doing all that. And I thought I was like, this is gonna be so cool to like be on TV doing shot, like, and we didn't get to do any of that. But we did get to do that cast album. So that was my first cast album. I got to like be in a recording studio and do that whole thing with, which was awesome.
Crazy.
To, like be a part of an original cast album.
At least it checked a lot of boxes of things that you're like, things that you want to do in your career. Original cast, you're playing a role, your principal contract, you are in off-Broadway and it transfers, you're on the cast recording. You might have run for 14 seconds, but like you, in that 14 seconds, a lot of boxes were checked, which is incredible. And then that's also how I met Teddy. We did a production at one of my favorite regional theaters, Meadowbrook Theater in Michigan. If you don't know it, look it up, mbttheater.com. I think mbtheater.com. I don't know, .org. You're going to look it up and you're going to find it. Because I can't remember. I don't know. I don't go to their website very often. But we did Lysistrata Jones regionally. That's where I met Teddy. That's where I met Manami, who we had on Saturday Noon on Broadway. I mean, I've known her since college, but that's where we worked together. And so that even regionally, it had some good, great cast members. Katie Terza, who's in Aladdin, of course, Karen Birthright. I mean, across the board, all of them, pretty incredible. And so it's, it was fun. Shout out to Meadowbrook Theater. We love them. Okay. So then you, you do Bring It On. We're going to fast forward so we can get to Mean Girls. You do Bring It On as a swing and cheerleading and tumbling and insanity. Yes. Yep.
I got cast as Michael Minlin was getting married when they were out on tour with it. So they needed somebody to replace him for it was like 2 months he's going to be taking off. So I ended up getting that one track when it was out on the road. So I did his ensemble track and then covered 2 guys. And then when it transferred to Broadway, they ended up bringing me back. And then I covered 3 of the ensemble, and then I covered 3 of the leads. So I covered Twig, Steven, and Cameron. So I covered Neil, one of our good buddies, Neil Haskell. I covered him. And then 3 of the ensemble people. So when it was on Broadway, I was constantly kind of going in and out because of injuries and different things. So I was different little cheerleaders. And at that point, I didn't know any about cheerleading. I'd never done cheerleading. So they taught me all the stunting and everything on the road, because we were all partnered up with professional cheerleaders. So that was the one. Wow. And I got to work with Andy, which was great.
Andy Blankenbuehler. That's crazy. Terry Carpenter from Meadowbrook Theater has shouted out mbtheater.com. Hey. Thank you, Terry Carpenter. Hi. Thank you for that assist for the win. Okay, Bring It On goes well. Your show, Broadway show number 2. Then you come over my apartment and you said, I auditioned for this thing. It's another high school musical. And it's about a prom or something. I remember this is what you sang. And so then starts this journey. How long was the prom journey from the moment on my couch to opening night on Broadway? Yeah, I remember that. Because the breakdown for it said Untitled Prom Project. That's right. You were like something about a prom. Yes. Yeah. I was like, I remember we were trying to decipher it because Mean Girls hadn't come out at the time yet. And we're like, is this Mean Girls? Like, we know Mean Girls is in the works and Casey's supposed to be doing it, but like, is this, they're keeping it hush hush? But, so I booked the original lab of Prom in, I think it was 2015. So we did the lab 4 weeks in a studio at New 42, the whole show. I'm working with Casey, who's just incredible. And that entire team, like with Brooks Osmanskis, Beth Level, Chris Sieber, like Ann Harada was in it at the time. Like everything, there was just like to just sit there and watch them every day was just dumb. So who did Ann Harada play? She was a stage manager. Oh, like Smash. So she's like, oh, I did this on Smash. Yeah. Great. So they ended up, I think, cutting that part and kind of meshing it in between Angie's part and Josh Lehman's part.
Sheldon
Okay.
Saperstein, the press agent. They kind of gave all her lines and stuff because there was just, I think, a lot of principal roles in there. So they're like, we got to cut one down, because what happened was, so we did that 4-week. It went well in the city. The Alliance Theater picked us up a full year after. We did it summer 2015, summer 2016. We did it at the Alliance Theater. We were down there for like 3.5 months creating the show. And to get like, you know, that was our out of town run to see if this was going to be a thing, if it's going to work, if people will respond to it. And they chose like Atlanta to be like, I feel like if this can do well here, this can like hit home on Broadway. And the people responded really well to it. So then it was a full almost 1.5 years, I think, after the Atlanta run. There wasn't a theater that opened up in time before Casey started rehearsals for Mean Girls. So they had to push back everything because Casey was going to be gone doing the DC run and then everything else. So they had to shift the whole schedule. So we waited almost 1.5 years, did another lab of Prom in January, and then waited 7 more months to start rehearsals back in October for the Broadway run. And then, so that was, I think, October. We started rehearsals and finally started previews in October, and then opened in November of, I believe it's 2019. If I'm right.
Yeah, 2018. Is that
2018?
No, 2017. Would it have been 2017?
Probably 2018
I
and
don't know.
2019.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. That's right. I don't know. You're like, what is time anymore? What year is it? What day? What month?
I don't know anything anymore.
And then will you tell us, just because I remember you telling me about what was the original opening to the Prom? Because I feel like a lot of people know the Prom. The movie's coming out. We have a question about it momentarily from someone on Instagram. What was the original opening sequence that ended up being cut for time and clarity?
So the original, because the show opens now with Eleanor musical. So originally the concept was they were going to show Barry and Dee Dee, Brooks and Beth's characters, and Chris Sieber's character in each of their Broadway shows. They were going to do kind of a number from each one of the shows, like a little clip so you could see like inside. And they were like, they all hated their lives. So this was trying to show you. So we started the show with Forrest Gump, the musical, which Brooks played Forrest Gump. So he was like sitting on a park bench and he had a box of chocolate in his lap, and he brings like a feather down like it's floating, and he sings this whole like, life is like a box of chocolates. We all come out and do this whole campy thing, and then he's like goes into like a bow section, and during the bows he sings like this. He's like, I hate my life, and he's supposed to like, and it's supposed to show you like the insight of what he's really feeling about his job, that they're like jaded actors at that point. So he was that. Beth, we did and it segued into Goonies the musical, which Beth played like the older woman trying to get the kids, and so like me and a couple of the ensemble kids were like the Goonie teens singing at her. And then Chris Sieber was doing Long Day's Journey into the Night, the musical, in which he would just sing literally Long Day's Journey into the Night, drawn out as slow as he can, and then all from off stage at the end we just go Journey. And so that was like, I always tell that's my favorite thing. Like when we were in tech and stuff on Broadway and stuff, at the end of like Unruly Heart or anything, it'd be these serious moments of like tech, and we end, and I just go Journey. And it's like Casey and them, like all like the original people who were there from the beginning would like kind of do it or whatever, because it's just so ridiculous.
It's yeah. I mean, when you told me about it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And then you were like, it got cut. I was like, oh, I hate that. that. Okay, the Prom movie. The yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the show is correct. The show, it turns out, is really more about Caitlin's character than it's about Emma. Okay, so we have a question from Instagram. Sydney C13 says, because you were in the original cast of The Prom, how do you feel about the new film, which just came out in movie theaters for people who have movie theaters that are open on December 3rd, and then it comes out officially next week on the 11th?
Like it's a story that should be told. So I mean, I'm happy that it gets the light on. I think it's always just like a little like meh, that like when you put so many years into something that like it feels like, and then you don't get to still be a part of it. It feels like a little, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's about the show. It's not about like me or anybody else in it. It's about like the story of the show and like how even when we were doing it on Broadway, how many people were like touched by it, the messages like all of us would get as cast members from people being from all over the country who'd never seen it, but just seen like our stuff online or TV shows we did, or like, and then reach out to us being like, you're really like changing my life. Like, I'm like, I've got to be able to like talk to my parents about this stuff. This is how, just like big things. So I think it's a great thing that it like, it happened. So
and it looks great, and it looks great, and there's a couple Broadway, some of our Broadway people in it, and I think that's it. I will say it was very strange to see this trailer and to see someone like playing your character of Nick in the ensemble who has this like pop out feature moment of Will You Go to Prom and this whole thing. And I was like, oh God, oh gosh, I wish, oh man, I'm sure that guy's very talented. And so I texted Teddy and I said, you didn't book it because you can't tumble. Is that what happened? And now I know it's because you couldn't skip. The final audition for the movie was probably like, all you have to do is skip across the room and then you got it. And you were like, no.
Not the skipping.
Okay, so you then we get to Mean Girls. The whole reason we're here, the August Wilson Theater. 41 minutes later, here we are.
Whoops, sorry.
It's okay. So Mean Girls, what was it like to have done so many original casts to go into a full-time replacement situation of a show that is going strong? And then what is it also like to now be slightly older than when you did High School Musical, Lysistrata Jones, Bring It On, and all of these shows that are set in the world of young youth, juvenile people still in school? Does that change now that you're older?
Well, okay, where do we start with this?
I know it's a lot to unpack.
Yes, I think with this one, it came about kind of really unexpectedly. I was actually, we finished Prom. It was, I think I had 3-4 weeks after Prom closed. I was actually in Florida for a wedding, and I got the call from my agents being like, hey, are you available? Like Mean Girls is interested. They have an immediate replacement. Somebody got injured. Where are you? And I was like, I'm in Florida, but I'm back tonight. And they're like, great, stand by. Details to come. I was like, okay. So I'm on my flight. I get a text from my agent being like, hey, they want you to start tomorrow. Stage manager will be getting in touch with you. I was like, absolutely, let's do it. Luckily, the stage manager, Holly, was on Prom with us in Atlanta and stuff. So I'm very familiar with her, and a lot of our Prom cast from Atlanta, a lot of them were doing Mean Girls at the time. So as far as like the building and the atmosphere, I felt super comfortable going into it because I'm really good friends with a lot of that cast, and even the stage management crew. I have a good relationship with them, so I didn't have to have like that nerve, like I don't know anybody, like this is a fully new environment, like terrified. But I started rehearsals, and I had a little over a week and a half of rehearsals from like when I started. They're like, okay, this is your first day, this is when you're having your put in, and you'll be on stage that night. And like remember looking at the schedule and being like, that's like a week and a half. I was like, I've never been put in a show in a week and a half, especially one that I don't know, and I haven't had to learn anything. I've been doing Prom for years, and it's kind of similar every time, and we had the time to redo it all. Like I was in the room with Casey while we were redoing stuff, but to just be like, here's a show, you have a week and a half to do it. And I had like, I played Coach Carr, Glenn Coco, and the math moderator. So I had these scenes too. So I was like, I remember like watching the show and being like, okay, like the first time doing it. But then like they taught me the first act in the first day of rehearsal. Then I remember going to the rehearsal the next day and being like, all right, let's run some of these numbers, and not being able to do anything. Like I was terrified, like trying to learn where do you belong. I was with the trades. I was standing there. I was like Ian, who's the assistant dance captain, was like in front of me. He's like, you're fine. And I was sitting there. I was like, I don't remember anything. I was like, I was like, I like woke up the next night. I remember in like night terrors. Like I never had that before, but I like woke up literally in a panic, being like, I'm on stage like a week and a half. I don't know if I can do this. But I was like, breathe. It'll be fine. And I sat on the stuff for a couple of days, one day off, spent the whole day in a studio with my iPad and had the video show and just broke everything down, came into rehearsal the next day. I was like, okay, got this. And from there on, it was just like smooth. Like they really helped me.
Yeah.
Everybody in that environment was great. And we're like, we got you. Like, don't worry. Like you're going to be nail it. And I was like,
and in a replacement situation, it's just about you. It's just like putting you in where you're rehearsing a full show. You know, they're like, okay, now let's go work with the principals. You guys take a second, like figure that out. And you sit in the back and you figure it out. But they're like, you good? And you're like, when it's just you, you're like, I'll take notes and let me do that later. Yeah. So it's just different.
And I was in the studio and I was in the studio by myself learning something. So, you know, like no set, no nothing. They just kind of gave me the number line and they're like, all right, you're going to be moving around a couch here. You're going to take Karen off the couch. You're going to this coffee table, run it off set with her, then come out for like this choreo and start doing. And I was like, okay. But in my head, I'm like visually trying to see what that is from not even seeing the show yet. And I'm like, okay. So I just like, you know, studio, it was tough. It was a tough experience, but I'm glad I did it and survived it. And I'd say it.
And then, yeah, correct. And Beth Marie, she has a great question of connecting the dots. What was it like going from one very dance heavy show, the Prom, to another? And is your track in Mean Girls, because it's a big dance heavy show, are you, I can't remember, are you in a dance heavy track?
Luckily in Mean Girls, right now my track is not dance heavy because I have all like the kind of character bit parts. So I do more, a lot of like big set moves and then like I dance, I think the most in like Whose House Is This and the opening number, It Roared is like the biggest dance what I do in that show. Prom, it's such a nice break. I loved Prom to death, but like my body was beat up every single day from that show. Like I was constantly my lower body, it was my legs more than anything, all the jumping. And then also we were up, like the guys were up like the 4th or 5th flight of stairs at that theater. So we had to, there's no room, we don't have a gondola or anything downstairs to change. So we had to go up and down almost every costume change. So like the dancing on top of that, it was like my calves and my like legs were blown out during the whole time. So this really gave my like body a break doing this track. But then if I end up taking over, I'm supposed to be taking over the Katie Heron's dad track. We'll see if that happens now with everything. But that's a more dance heavy track. That was Brendan Simpson's original track. So I'll be doing all the Apex Predator crazy bench stuff and
sure. All that fun stuff. I love that. Okay, on the track of choreography, Tom, who we love. Hi, Tom. He says, "Hey, Teddy, which of your shows has had the most fun choreography, the most challenging, other than the skipping and Wizard of Oz?" Still got it, Tom. Nice work.
Hey-o.
What was the most fun and what was the most challenging? The Prom sounds like it was maybe the most challenging.
Yeah, Prom was most challenging. I would say, like, I love doing it. That's why I love things that like push me and like it's like a challenge to me. So like I loved every aspect of all the Prom stuff. There's so many knee slides, the jump ups and crazy athletic, like jumping in the air kind of things. And that's what I love. Bring It On was awesome because like Andy's like, oh, like it's more chill. So it's like you're more in your body and you're not killing yourself. So you could do it 8 times a week. It's fun. It's groovy. You're doing all this stuff, but you're not like killing yourself, which is very nice for the dancers. But I love the challenge of like really pushing myself and being like, I survived. Like, so,
correct.
Yeah, like Prom,
you're like, I made it.
Prom. Yeah. Like it's kind of like exciting to just be like, got another one down, made it through. Like that's what it was. Like
7 more to go.
Yeah, every top of the Tonight Belongs to Us, I would look at the guys backstage before the curtain goes, and I just look at them and I go, see you on the other side. Because it was that. It was like that moment of like, strap up, boys. We're about to do this, and hopefully we all make it through.
Yeah, you're on the ride, and there's no getting off. You're like, I will. We are on a roller coaster, and I will see you in 4 minutes when we are at the end of that ride. Do you have a favorite theater? You've worked on 4 Broadway shows, 4 different theaters, the Walter Kerr, the Longacre, the St. James, and the August Wilson, hence the August Wilson week. Do you have a favorite of the 4? Maybe.
I would say this August Wilson I like a lot. And just the theater itself, I think, is really pretty on the inside. It's a little bigger stage. The Walter Kerr is very tight when you're on stage. It's a beautiful theater. Like the inside architecture stuff is amazing. It's just a little tight being on the stage. The same thing kind of with
the Longacre for sure.
Yeah, Longacre was tight as well. St. James was just mad. You're on that stage, and Bring It On, it was fun because we just had a sprung floor was basically our stage. So it's like you could just bounce around and warm up and do things, and it was kind of fun. And you're just in this massive open space. And the crew over there at the St. James is a lot of fun. They always like have sports and stuff on, and I'd go out in there and like hang out with them and on and watch football and stuff. So like I love like that. Each theater I love for like different reasons.
Okay, sure. One final question, and then we're going to let you go do wonderful Saturday things. Trinity Bird says, hey, guys, I hope I didn't miss this. You didn't. But Teddy, can you talk about the final show before COVID-19 and finding out they would be stopping shows? Also, do you plan to go back to Broadway upon the reopening? I hope so.
Definitely. Hopefully, whenever that is, I will be back with Mean Girls. And yeah, Mean Girls, we had just got done. We spent the last 3.5 weeks at Mean Girls prior to COVID shutdown, redoing the show. So it was really crazy time because we were changing.
What do you mean?
We were changing it to the version that is out on tour. So we had.
Oh, that's right. I remember you saying this. Yeah, Fearless or something changed or something.
Fearless is different. It Roars is different. Staging for Stars, final number is a little different. All these like big kind of changes happened along with putting in. We were getting a new Janice, a new Damien. Sabrina Carpenter came in for lead.
For Katie.
So we were like, Katie. And so like it was all that combination. It was like we were in studios every day, morning and night with John McGinnis, the associate choreographer, to redo these tour changes. We were learning them that while still doing the old show at night, which was like a brain thing because we were like did the new It Roars, which is kind of the same, but there's a whole added new music section, and I'm on like opposite sides of the stage that I was now, and I'm doing different choreography, and it's all like, and same thing with Fearless, like learning it during the day and then being like, okay, forget all of that now, go do the old show right now. And so we did that for like 2.5 weeks. And then we had our put in, did 3 shows, I think, total. We did a Tuesday, we had the Wednesday. Sabrina was at that point, because she was brand new, she wasn't doing matinees. So she can get used to like the first before she did it. She got to do 2 shows of the new Mean Girls, and then COVID hit and just stopped. Like we were all like that Wednesday. So we put all this time in. We had to tech for 2 days. So like we shut the show, or we teched during the day, one full day for like 8 hours. Then did the old show at night.
Wow.
Teched Act 2 for the full day. Did the old show at night. 3rd day, full put in, full tech, did the new show that night, and then had three days with the new show before COVID stopped us. So it's like, I don't even, like in my mind, I'm like, I don't even really remember the new stuff we learned. I just freshly learned it. I was still messing up things in the opening number as we're doing it for those 3 shows.
Yeah, I mean, it'll have to be the startup of again next year. It'll have to be going back in and re-rehearsing and re-teching and remounting every production. I mean, over a year later, it's like your body is like, some things stick, but you're like, for safety and everything. That's wild. It's crazy. It's crazy that this is the moment of our lives that we're in, and that this is, of course, a world that none of us imagined, and this is not how we imagined it, playing out. But it's wild that we're having this conversation and going like, I wonder when it'll be back. And I don't know. It's still, to wrap your mind around the whole thing is pretty crazy. You're awesome. Is Instagram the best way we should follow you if we want to know everything about Teddy Toye?
Yeah. You can go on Instagram's probably my most social page. So yeah, just Teddy Toye. that's it.
Great. You're awesome. Thank you so much for, so good to see you again. Thank you so much for spending some time with us on your Saturday. We cannot wait to see the new Mean Girls for show number 4, a year and a half after the first 3 shows. And good luck in Florida. And we can't wait to have you back here in New York City and in Times Square.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're awesome. Happy Saturday. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Saturday. Later.
Bye. He's awesome. He, he's just kind of like this genuine human that can crump and skip. The crumping, I still don't even really know what it is, but the fact of him dancing in a guinea pig costume in a cafetorium somewhere in America is something that I will never stop thinking about. Every time I think of Teddy Toye. He's just kind of the real deal, and he just kind of trucks along, and we're going to see how long and how old he can get, how old he'll be, continuing to do every show that's set in high school is my favorite thing ever. And it's pretty wonderful. And I think the thing about these interviews that I really want you to see week after week, if you follow us, is the connecting of the dots of this thing seems so random in the moment, but then leads to this. And, oh, I met him at this, and he was like at this. And you start to see these connections of how an entire career can be formed off of these seemingly random things that all in the fabric of everything all come together. And I think that's why we have an industry that everyone says it's about who you know, because it's those connections that create a big fabric. And so I hope you've loved seeing those connections, because to me, it's fascinating. It's my favorite part of talking to these very successful, very talented, very normal, down-to-earth people who are just trying to craft careers in an insane world, in an insane industry, in an insane city. And so I hope you've gotten a little peek with these into our theaters and, of course, those lives. We launched, we haven't even put it on social media yet. We did like a soft launch at our Playbill event that we did this week. I haven't even put this officially. The post will go up tomorrow, but we just launched, we're doing 4 marquee ornaments every year. This is the first 4. Of course, there's the Belasco, because it's my favorite. And my dog who's sleeping behind me is named Belasco. We have the Richard Rogers we launched this year. The Lyric Theater, which is one of our oldest, newest, which is very fancy and glittery. And then, of course, our Hudson Up Close tour that we have. I thought we have to include the Hudson. It's the oldest. And so this is a little piece of the exact marquee. And then the logo for the theater is this hexagon. And so we superimposed it over. And so all of them are handmade. It's all I've done for the last, I can't even tell you how many hours in the last 3 days I've worked on ornaments. But I'm nearing the end in sight. Right after this, I have to fill the rest of the orders that have come in, which makes me the happiest kid ever. And then one last trip to the post office for the week. Your support, the way you're keeping me alive, and your messages and your interactions, and you're showing up on Saturday. It's that connection I think we're all missing. But I feel your love here in New York City, and I will never stop saying thank you enough. You're getting me through one ornament at a time, one Saturday Noon on Broadway at a time, one direct message at a time. And so thank you. Keep the messages coming. Keep interacting. We got it. I'm going to give you, continue to bring you a little bit of insight into our weird, insane lives in New York until you're back here with us in Times Square in our red velvet seats, watching the new version of Mean Girls, and then pointing out all the things that you learned about these theaters and these shows while we had this downtime, or this year and a half together. So all that to say, if you're interested in our merchandise, which you should be, give me all your money. No, it's okay. But if you're interested, BroadwayUpClose.com/souvenirs. It has everything. And then I'm going to give you a discount code, which is Broadway 5. Should you want to buy anything, that'll give you $5 off on our website, Broadway. $5 off. And then if you want to follow us, of course, you're here on Facebook. So give us a little like and you'll get all of our stuff there. And then Instagram at Broadway Up Close. Our website has our mailing list. If you want to sign up for our emails, we do an email about once every 2 months with new updates and things that are happening. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I hope you're having a glorious, beautiful, more beautiful than our gloomy day here in New York City. Thank you for spending a little piece of your Saturday with me, like always. And we will see you again on Monday for our next theater, week 26, I think. And in the meantime, we are one day closer to Broadway. I love you all. Have a great weekend. And I will see you again on Monday. Bye, guys.